What do you do when your longtime friend confesses their love to you and then goes quiet? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, my girlfriend wants me to leave my amazing job. I'm a 26-year-old male and she's a 26-year-old female. We've been together 6 years. We're pretty happy, but as we get older, we're having more serious conversations about the future before we commit long-term. I come from a lower middle-class family. Her family is millionaires. In college, we were long distance. I grinded my butt off. I paid for my rent and tuition. I took 7 classes a semester and worked 2 jobs, 40+ hours a week. Her parents paid for her to go to a good school, but she mostly just smoked weed every day. I did this to pay my bills, but also to pay for our vacations. About half my annual income went to flights and vacations so that we could see each other. She didn't want to ask her parents for money because they were already paying for so much. Now, she's always been clear about her expectations for us. She said she was with me because she loved me, and was frank with me that if she was in it for my money, that she would be with someone else. I believed it because when we first met, I was broke and had nothing to offer. Well, fast forward to after college, we both have great jobs working remotely. I'm in tech sales and make about $85,000. She's making roughly the same amount. I've been in my current job for about 4 years. It was my first job out of college, and honestly, I love it. I work about 10 hours per week, and I hit all my numbers. My coworkers and managers are amazing. I've grown so much professionally because they train us so well. I love life for the first time in a while. If you don't know a lot about sales, it's a very tough job market right now. Even if you're lucky enough to get hired, it's very possible you'll get laid off quickly. In the tech sales world, 4 years at a company is a serious accomplishment. If you don't hit your numbers or the company is struggling, then you're gone. Typically, it's true that switching jobs is the best way to increase your salary, but in sales, it actually looks really good on your resume if you've stayed at a company for a while. My girlfriend says I need a different job because I'm not motivated or challenged enough, and that I should have higher salary goals and higher career ambitions. She's putting her money where her mouth is because she wants to make $100,000 bad. She really wants those promotions. She works 50+ hours a week and is always thinking about work. So it doesn't seem worth it to me. I know there will be a time where I need to step it up, but why not just enjoy the job I have now until I inevitably get fired? I'm lucky to have a job right now anyway. No amount of pay can replace work-life balance. I think I would regret it if I moved on, but I think I could be working harder to get better promotions and kissing more butt at work, but I'll just do that at my next job. How do we proceed from here? I know $85,000 a year isn't like crazy money, but it's a pretty decent living depending on where you live, especially considering you work remotely. You can live in a place where there's no real high cost of living and you only work 10 hours a week. I just don't understand how you could pressure somebody to leave such a good situation. It sounds like such a great gig. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy tricky relationship topics, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is Guy, 30-year-old male. I, 29-year-old female, am dating, just found out he has genital herpes. I've been dating this guy for 2 months. This weekend, I was actually going to ask him to be my boyfriend. He had a weird rash, what he thought was a rash, on his junk and got it checked out. He got the call today that he has genital herpes. He's very down about it, understandably, and I am doing my best to be supportive. He's worried about the basics, outbreaks, giving it to me, and everything in between. He said he thought I would dump him after I found out, which is funny because I was actually going to ask him to take the next step in our relationship. I obviously didn't bring that up because of what he found out today, but now I'm sort of stuck. I really like him. He treats me so well. He's smart, funny, kind, beautiful, gentle, and we have a lot of fun together, but I'm terrified of getting it too. I don't know if I want to end things. This is terrible. 1 minute I'm driving to his place practicing my speech of asking him to be my boyfriend, and the next he tells me this. I'm not mad at him. He didn't know and he was only concerned about me. Any advice is helpful. Admittedly, I don't have much experience on this condition, but I'm assuming it's something that is treatable to the point where unless they're having a breakout, it's not going to be transmissible. So if you really like this guy and you think it's just an unfortunate thing, it's not like he's sleeping around. I mean, it's just something you go to the doctor for and you get treated for it, and once the doctor gives them the green flag, then you're good to go. I think the most important thing here is that they were very transparent and upfront with you about it. They could have been like any other number of jerks who just try to hide it or pretend it doesn't exist. Our next story is, my 34-year-old male, live-in mother, 67-year-old female, upset/annoyed about girlfriend, 31-year-old female, barely wearing clothes around house. I live with my girlfriend, we pay all the bills. Mom moved in about 3 months ago due to being unable to care for herself anymore. Girlfriend wears clothes around the house, but usually just wears underwear and tank tops or a long shirt and underwear. Mom hasn't openly said anything to girlfriend, but she has mentioned to me on 3 occasions that she thinks it's inappropriate and disrespectful for a grown woman to dress like that around company. I asked my girlfriend if she could wear a hoodie or put on pants. Sometimes she does, but sometimes she doesn't. I told Mom that I mentioned it to girlfriend, but I'm not going to force her to wear more clothing if she doesn't want to. If Mom was not living with us, it wouldn't be a problem. So I don't think I should concern myself with it since Mom pays 0 bills. We haven't talked about it anymore, but now Mom seems annoyed whenever she's in the room with girlfriend and she isn't wearing the required amount of clothing. Trying to avoid conflict, but I tend to side with my girlfriend when able. Also trying to get advice to deal with the situation before it gets worse. So I kind of understand her being uncomfortable with it, but at the same time, it is your girlfriend's place, and you guys both pay all the bills, and it's not like they're walking around in the buff. The main problem I have with it is the mom is saying, well, she shouldn't dress like that around company. It's not company if you move into the house. I don't know the full context of the situation with the mom. If this is a situation where she had to move in, she can't afford things for herself, is it not a bit of a, you gotta live with what you got? Because at the end of the day, this is the girlfriend's house. It's not like covering up every once in a while because somebody's over. This is asking them to modify their comforts in their house in their daily life every day. This next story is, my 35-year-old male, wife, 38-year-old female, cheated on me yesterday. My wife and I met through online dating about a decade ago and hit it off pretty quickly. We've been married 8 years now. We own a house together and have 2 young, less than 6-year-old children. Neither of us had really had a successful long-term relationship prior to meeting each other. We are a team and we constantly have each other's backs. We've worked through some stuff in the past, mainly financial stuff we didn't see eye to eye on, but we communicate well and work through things as a team. We are a single unit. We've not had any insurmountable hurdles until seemingly now. She is straight, always maintains that she is straight, but she definitely has the sort of style that gives off, I like girls vibes. My wife has issues where to draw the line on joking about things, and in her workplace, the level of joking, especially of a sexual nature, crosses all kinds of lines that wouldn't come near to being crossed at my workplace. I would get fired for the sort of stuff she and her coworkers joke about on a daily basis, but it comes with their work environment. Recently, she's made a new friend at work within the last couple of weeks. Roughly the same age who she could not stop talking about. Let's call her Rachel. Rachel is so funny. Rachel is a kid in our kids' class at school. Rachel sent me another funny message. She's so cool, haha. Rachel is roughly the same age as my wife and I to my knowledge, and is married to a wife, and they have at least 1 kid. Last night I was plugging in the iPad to charge, and the iPad is linked to my wife's phone, and so messages on her phone appear on the iPad as well. She was working a late shift, so I was home alone with the kids. I was plugging it in, and there was a message notification on the screen, a phone number with no name, and the message absolutely gushing about my wife's personality, looks, etc. Now, normally I don't dig into her messages. I see the jokes that come through sometimes, and you can tell they're jokes, but this one didn't sit well with me. It was too non-jokey, too legitimately heartfelt. And so I opened up the message, and what I gathered over the next 10 to 15 minutes is that this was Rachel texting her and that something, not sure what, had happened earlier in the day between the 2 of them physically, and that my wife had put up a boundary. But then all of the messages after that were the 2 of them flirting back and forth, and my wife asking what if they moved the boundary, and Rachel responding that they could discuss setting a new boundary. My wife also expressed that she wishes she had met Rachel before me, or at least before we had kids. I took pictures of all of the messages with my phone. I wasn't sure how to screenshot them and send them to myself from the iPad without her realizing, and then I started texting her and asking her how her day was, what did she get up to, etc. It is slowly revealed that she had spent the morning with Rachel, that Rachel was at our house in the morning, for the whole morning. They had chatted about issues at work and issues with Rachel's marriage, and my wife never does this. She never has people over to the house like that. The odd time she does, I generally hear about it. She tells me because she's excited that she had an old friend over or something. And so I danced around it a bit with a few more text messages and then said, screw it. I know something happened and I'm going to put her on the spot. And I texted something along the lines of, I am about to start asking some very real questions, and you need to have a very good answer. And then indicated that I'd charged up the iPad for her when she got home. The iPad lights up with my message, and then I can see that she read it, and then it lights up again with a message to Rachel with a screenshot of my message to my wife, and she says to Rachel, we're done. Rachel asks what's going on, and my wife says that I know because I can see the whole conversation on the iPad. And then she texts me back asking if she can call me in a few minutes when she can find a quiet spot at work. I told her not to call me and made arrangements for her to sleep in the basement. I am numb right now. I did not sleep last night. I had a million thoughts floating through my head. This morning, I sat with her in the early hours of the morning and had a discussion that I think we need to address this through a marriage counselor who knows better how to attack this. I asked her why, and she has no answer. She says she can't explain it. She says there is nothing wrong with me, it is nothing I did. That she is happy in life and doesn't know why she did it. She says all they did was kiss and nothing more. But I told her that I know from her messages that she was pushing for more. I poured my heart out to her and all I got back was some mumbled sorry and I know you're hurting, etc. She doesn't know what to say and she seems numb as well. She said she's embarrassed. I told her she's embarrassed and sorry only that she got caught because she obviously wasn't thinking about me or the kids. I left this morning for work telling her that I'm willing to patiently work through this with a marriage counselor, but that this was going to take some time. That this wasn't some, oh, it was a work party and we were all drunk and I made a mistake. This was a Thursday morning, stone cold sober, invited her into the house immediately after dropping the kids off at school, minutes after. A couple hours after we had just hooked up in the morning, and then flirting with her via text the rest of the day while at work together and further getting handsy at work, all the while texting me, how was your day? Here's what's in the fridge for the kids for dinner. Can we find some time to FaceTime the kids tonight? I can tell by the timestamps on the text messages that she was flirting with this Rachel right prior to and right immediately after the call with the kids. I am so mad and trying to keep a level head and not do anything without rational thought put in first. I believe in trying to fix this. Does anyone have any advice or pointers, etc. on how to go about this? I have already made it clear that I want to go through marriage counseling. I've told her that I want her to get an STD screening. I've told her that she needs to smarten up at work and stop kidding around and act like a professional regardless of what others do. She has indicated that she's cut contact with Rachel and will not speak to her other than in a professional capacity when she has to at work. I have photos of the messages they sent to one another, and my wife does not know that I have them, only that I could see what was on the iPad. I have told her that she can get comfy in the basement for a while. I don't know if there's anything else I can do right now. Is this a lost cause? Should I just go scorched earth? I don't want to do that to my kids. Should I get her checked for a tumor? I so badly want to believe that she has some tumor that's tweaked her brain. This is just so out of left field. It came out of absolutely nowhere and is nothing like her. And she seems to have no real idea of why it happened other than she got curious. Should I try and get in touch with Rachel's wife and let her know? Or see if my wife has the balls to do it, or just leave that one well enough alone? She's got another late shift today and I'm at work now, so we probably won't cross paths again until tomorrow morning. We have a weekend of kids' birthday parties to attend, which I don't know how we'll get through without people realizing there is something terribly wrong between us. Any advice anyone has, I would very much appreciate before I speak to her in person again. I want to make this better and I don't want to feel like I screwed it up by trying the wrong way if it goes south. Honestly, I just have a lot of respect for OP for trying to keep things together still, and like wanting to work through this and feeling so strongly that that is the path forward. I just feel if I were in OP's shoes, knowing that this person came along that just became my partner's obsession, as if they were the greatest person in the world, telling them, I wish I met you before my husband, I just don't think I would ever be able to go back to being in a relationship with a person like that. Our next story is, my mom, 64-year-old female, overheard me, 45-year-old male, tell my wife, 45-year-old female, that I only visit her and my step/half-brothers for our kids, and now she's very upset. Recently, my wife, our kids, 14-year-old male, 12-year-old male, 10-year-old male, and I visited my mother for my aunt's funeral, while my stepfather, stepbrothers, and half-brothers were also there. I absolutely adore my wife and our sons with all my heart. My wife has been my best friend since 3rd grade, and she's my soulmate, and our children are the 3 best products of our love. They're my world, and I would absolutely do anything for them. My feelings for the rest of my family are not remotely as tender as those for my wife and kids. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate them, but I mostly feel a sense of obligation to them, not anything near adoration. Lately, I've been wondering if it's quite appropriate to say I love them at all. Although some of them, for example, my stepbrothers, are very pleasant people, some of my relatives have largely caused me more headache than anything else. For example, my mother and my youngest half-brother. However, my mother is an amazing grandma to my kids, and most of my step and half-brothers are good uncles. While I don't have a personal desire to be close with any of them anymore, I absolutely want them to be in my children's lives because of the love they give them. So, fairly late at night, after I thought everyone was asleep, my wife and I were sitting on my mom's deck and talking for a while. I mentioned that I don't feel much of a connection with anyone there anymore, but I was happy to carry on like everything was fine because our kids deserve the best and easiest possible relationship with them. My wife told me I was an amazing father. I told her she was an amazing mother, and that's no exaggeration, and we then changed the subject. Turns out the window to the room my youngest half-brother was staying in was open, and he was still awake and heard what we were talking about, as that room is right around the corner from the deck. He then tattled on me to our mother, and she and I had a big fight. Essentially, she said that if I felt that way about everyone, then she didn't want to see me and the kids could visit her alone and only alone. I said she was being ridiculous. It wasn't even like I was making a big deal out of it. My half-brother eavesdropped on a private conversation with my wife, then felt the need to tell her, and I didn't want to have to explain anything to my kids about why I suddenly never visit my mom anymore. We didn't really resolve the issue, and I'd like advice on how to proceed. Is it probably for the best to do what my mom says? Is there a way for me to easily explain this to my kids? I just don't know what to do. Any help is appreciated. I mean, I don't think OP's wrong for feeling the way they do. The problem is they talked about those feelings in a place where they could be compromised, and they were. I think upon hearing that, somebody like OP's mom would understandably be hurt. It's probably even warranted to try to apologize and downplay the comments that supposedly were shared. If things do become just untenable between you and most of the people there, as long as you'd be comfortable with it, maybe it is for the best for just the kids to go and still have that relationship. Our next story is, my boyfriend doesn't pay for many bills or dates, and I'm getting resentful. My female 30, boyfriend, male 26, recently moved in together and we decided to split bills based on our incomes. I make almost double what he makes, but I still want him to contribute. It makes me feel like I'm being taken advantage of if he just lives for free. Recently, I've noticed he doesn't pay for groceries or ever really pay for dates, even if he's the one that asked me to go. I just feel like he has an expectation that I'll always pay. I'm starting to get upset because I feel like I'm dating a child that just wants to live off of me. I don't ask him to contribute much. I pay over half of all of our shared bills, and I also contribute a lot towards my retirement and savings. So I feel like long term, I'll always be paying for more things. I mean, if you're in a relationship, especially where you're in a shared living situation, and your partner is not holding their end up, are you not being taken advantage of here? I couldn't imagine being in the boyfriend's shoes and being able to get over this shamefulness of slowly pushing things to a point where there's an expectation where my partner will pay for everything. I definitely feel like OP needs to address this rationally though and try to talk about it first and see if there's any improvement to be made here before just saying, oh, well, he's definitely just taking advantage of me. Our next story is my, male 29, ex's new boyfriend, male 30s I think, has contacted me to ask about her, female 28. Contraception. She has just publicly announced a pregnancy, unsure if I should reply at all. Very confused and unsure I should actually do in this situation. A bit of backstory, I broke up with my ex just over 18 months ago. The relationship was not great to say the least. In the last few months I found out she was logging into my email and social media accounts without me knowing. She set a boundary that we shouldn't discuss relationship problems we had with friends or family, only to later admit she discussed them extensively, including very personal details about me to her mother and at least 2 friends. She was contacting wedding venues without telling me to inquire about dates, despite us not being engaged. Embarrassingly in hindsight, when I found out about any of these issues, she would either justify it because of something she felt I was doing, or just threaten the relationship if I had any issue with her behaviors. This went on longer than I care to admit, but eventually I decided to call her bluff on threatening the relationship and we broke up. I blocked her on all socials and haven't seen or spoken to her since. Yesterday, I received this message on Facebook. Hey lad, how's it going? Sorry, now you probably don't know me, but I think I'm going out with X's name here, and just wanted to ask you something if that's alright. I didn't reply to it right there, but instead I messaged a friend who I know would still have her as a friend on socials, and asked if she had posted anything and if this guy was her boyfriend. Basic summary of what I got back was, he is her boyfriend, she posted 4 days previously that she is pregnant, the announcement doesn't include the boyfriend in any way. Not tagged in the post, not in the photos, in the post, nothing. My first concern upon hearing this was that he thought she had cheated with me and I was the father of the baby. In a semi-panic, I replied, "Hi lad, I'm not sure I can do much for you as I haven't seen or spoken to her in well over 18 months at this stage. We haven't kept in touch or spoke at all. In hindsight, I regret replying at all, but I just wanted to remove any potential thought that I was in any way communicating with her. I sent that today and he replied almost instantly, no, that's fine, there's no panic. This is a bit strange and sorry about this. But was X's name here on the pill or anything when you were together? I know it's a strange one. My ex was not regularly on the pill when we were together, but she did have the bar, implant. She occasionally had to deal with spotting, so she did take the pill for small periods on occasion, but had the bar for the entire time we were together. I know this for certain because I paid for it when she had it replaced, and based on the timing, there would have been no reason for her to have had it removed for over a year. She got it about 4 months before we broke up, so she's had it for just less than 2 years. They get removed after roughly 3. I haven't replied to this, but I feel he's making the obvious implication here that she has lied about contraception to him, and it at least somewhat seems possible that that is the case. I am unsure if I should reply because I really don't want to be involved. I'm also not really sure if there are any practical benefits to him knowing this information. Potentially, I guess that's more of a legal question. I am leaning towards telling him the bare minimum and then saying I don't want to speak to him or anyone else about it again. Something to the effect of, she wasn't regularly on the pill when we were together, but she was on the bar. I really don't want to say anything else about this, and I won't be responding to you or anyone else about this. Honestly, if OP's not comfortable with this, I feel like they shouldn't say anything. Don't speculate, don't share your experience, just say, I'm sorry, respectfully, these are things that are between you and your girlfriend. I'm not comfortable talking about this stuff. Good luck. And you just walk away from that unless you're subpoenaed in some legal situation. I mean, really, it just sounds like OP's getting really stressed out about it. Our next story is, in limbo with my boyfriend, please help. I am 21-year-old female and have been living with my 22-year-old male boyfriend for about 2 years. I noticed he started being odd with his phone, taking it everywhere with him, sleeping with it under his pillow, going to the bathroom with it even in the middle of the night, and I started to become concerned. I knew I didn't want to go on his phone without him knowing, as I'm not the kind of girl to overstep boundaries, and so the only way I knew to keep track of this pattern and get a glimpse of what he could be doing on it was that I'd start checking his Snapchat score. I have never done this, nor would I ever do this if I hadn't felt a reason for it. And I noticed that every time he went to the bathroom, went downstairs, and even when I was at work, he had no job, his Snap score was going up loads, and it wasn't because he was Snapchatting me. I've lived with him for 2 years, so I know he mainly uses Snapchat for me, my brother, and his sister. However, he never used the photo snap feature for any of us. I told him my concerns without mentioning the Snap score, and he told me I was overthinking and had nothing to worry about. This crap continued for a week. I had the biggest gut feeling that something was wrong. I'd stopped eating, sleeping, laughing, and functioning like a normal human. It took him a week of seeing me like this to show me his phone. However, before he did, he left the room and explained it was because he was ticked off. When he came back in and showed me his Snapchat, I knew he had deleted something. There was no one on his Snapchat list that he'd been sending red snaps to, but his Snap score had been going up all day. He followed this up with, "Do you feel stupid now?" I decided to leave it at that and went to sleep, and when I woke up, it had gone up again by at least 80 snaps, and he was up all night. This is when I knew something wasn't right. It got to a point where I was that much of a mess and knew something was going on that I confronted him one morning. I told him I knew that he was lying, that I wasn't stupid, and that I knew he was messaging someone, so either he shows me his phone now with no time to prepare, or I can't do this anymore. He replied, "Shall I pack a bag then?" And that was it. Within half an hour, he had called his mom, got some money for trains, booked an Uber, packed some clothes, and left. I was so hurt that he had chosen to leave rather than give me the closure I needed because it went against his boundaries. Throughout our 2 years together, I'd never been on his phone, never been this sure of something, and never felt so low, and he walked out. He spoke briefly before he left, said all of his stuff was still here, he had only packed clothes, and that he didn't want this to be the last time we see each other. When he left, my parents explained that they didn't want him back. He'd lived under our roof in and out of jobs he couldn't keep, left the house with no fight, and he wasn't good for me. They said he'd only be allowed back permanently if he managed to find a job down here. They'd let him stop for the night if he had an interview or for weekends, but until he found a job here, he wouldn't be allowed back permanently. I told him this, and he said he wanted to stay in Manchester again with his mom. After 2 years of living together and 24 hours apart, he decided he didn't want to come back. He wants us to do long distance, find a place together and move, but he's only made things harder, hasn't stuck a job since we got together, and never gave me closure on the thing I needed the most. I do love him. We went through a lot together and we do have good memories together. My family are saying to just end things, that he's no good and I'll never get the future I want with him. I'm doing uni and have a part-time job, and he's done nothing in the 2 years we've had. He keeps telling me he's made sacrifices for me. What sacrifices have I made? That he left that job for me, that he does everything to make me happy and it's not good enough. I'm just so confused. Please help. So the main thing that throws red flags for me in this situation, although I think it is very understandable to have the boundary of, I'm not going to let you invade my phones and my devices, it was the total lack of fight here. He was like, all right, I'll just grab a bag and go. There was no, come on, you're being ridiculous, or come on, do you really think I would do that to you? Just none of that. He just immediately went to, all right, bye. I mean, if he's willing to give it up that easy regardless, is there not an issue? You're super stressed out. You feel like they're cheating. You make one last desperate cry for them to just do something, and they don't even petition. They just go, all right, I'll grab a bag and go. This next story is, my 30-year-old female friend, 31-year-old male of 16 years confessed his love to me and now is distant. Met in high school and have been great friends since we were 15. There has always been a strong connection and a mutual attraction, but life always kept us apart. Currently, I live on the West Coast and he's on the East Coast. I've always loved him, but I had accepted that it would never be and therefore never confessed it to him. We haven't spoken since last summer, just keeping in touch on social media. A couple of weeks ago, he called me one late night, fairly drunk, and confessed his love for me. He started crying, saying how he wished he could marry me and that I've always been the one. He mentioned that all of his friends and family know about me as the one. I reassured him it was the alcohol talking, and he said, fine, I'll call you when I sober up. The next day, he called me and said the same thing, this time sober. He said, I love you, If I could marry you tomorrow, I would. I'd devote my life to you as your husband," and assured me he meant it. A little backstory, his father passed away a couple years ago, and he told me the day he called was the death anniversary of his dad. And before his father passed away, his dad told him if he really loved me, he should try to make things work, and that's what he was doing. I took some space and time to process everything he said. All the while, he would send sweet text messages and randomly call to check in every day. I asked him what he wanted out of telling me, and he said, "We live on opposite sides of the country, but we can figure something out to be together." After I had time to process everything and get over the fear of being with this guy, it's one of those types of loves that you know if the relationship goes south, it's gonna really break you, so it's scary. I started putting in more effort into calling and texting him. However, last time we FaceTimed, I noticed a slight shift in his mood. It's hard to explain, but it was just different and not as affectionate as our previous encounters. So this was days ago. I know that's not a lot of time, but to go from speaking every day, being flirty, trying to pursue a relationship, and reassuring me he was genuine, it just seems odd. To be fair, I never said I loved him back. I never even told him I was exactly interested. That fear thing again, shaking my head. But I thought my actions showed it, plus I never rejected him. Anyways, here's my theory that I'll pose as a question. Do you think his feelings were genuine considering the circumstances surrounding his confession? Personally, and this is just huge speculation on my part, which should not be taken as the truth, but I feel like considering the circumstances, he was already very heightened emotionally. Personally, I'm willing to bet that there is some truth to what he said, but also I think a lot of it was he was just in his feelings. And I think after going through that and processing it and being removed from it for a while, it kind of came back down to earth. At the same time though, OP didn't actually commit to anything and agree to work on stuff here. So maybe he's also just coming back down to earth. It's not gonna happen. I think OP really needs to communicate with them here on what OP wants and how OP feels. It's really important to them, especially if they do potentially want this future with this guy. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely tricky relationship topic, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.